in for some real human bones. While a lot of these real bones have been replaced by prop bones, apparently there are still some real human remains still hanging around the pirates. And seriously, that is the stuff that curses are made of. They don't call it the curse of the Black Pearl for nothing. Coming in at number 9 is the bellhop ghost. Now apparently the Tower of Terror is a bit more terrifying than expected. A long time ago it said that one of the employees acting as a bellhop suddenly dropped dead. Like, no explanation, no provocation, nothing. He just died. Since his death, there have been a lot of sightings of a ghostly figure who many believe is that bellhop. Thankfully, he's never hurt anyone, but he does like stopping the ride, making loud noises to freak out the other staff members. I love how he's like, no, the guests should have a fun time, not screw with the other employees. At number 8, we have Mr. One Away. Turns out there are a lot more haunted rides at Disney than you would really expect from the happiest place on earth. More like happiest place in the afterlife. That was lame of you guys. Just, you can actually attack me in the comments for that. Apparently, even Space Mountain has a resident spirit haunting the ride. Mr. One Way is described as being a large man with red hair and a red face, and he will often sit beside people who are riding solo. A lot of people don't realize that he's a ghost until he mysteriously just vanishes midway through the ride. But there is one way to tell if you are a bit sus about him while waiting in the line. If you see a large red-faced, red-haired man while waiting to get on the ride, try talking to him about all the new changes at the park. Seeing as he's dead, he doesn't have any idea about anything that's happened since the 70s. Bring up a phone. Filling at number 7 slot is the family. This family cannot seem to have a trip to Disneyland without getting some type of nasty stomach bug. On her blog, the mum gave a thankfully not too detailed account of the past 5 times that she and her family have gone to Disneyland, during 4 of which at least one of them got a really nasty bug. Even bringing hand sanitizer and floor wipes didn't seem to protect them enough to make it through a trip. Normally, I might consider this a really bad stream. I'll stick around for that. Now at number 6.
I guess let's go to bed and head to Japan High School tomorrow. And oh yeah, before I forget, I have to go down here, close this for tonight. It's 8 AM, cause it's 8 AM. School is about to start. Nice. I didn't know school starts at 8 AM here. Like it's weird. Over in America, school starts at 6:05, but here it starts at fucking 8. So I guess let's head to the high school. Here we are. They should really build stuff here. Like, this is a big pot of land. They should fucking build more classrooms or whatever here. And here and over there. Look, fuck. This school is just wasting, you know. Here we are in Yandere town at Yandere High School. Oh, shit.
Several employees have sworn that they've seen the animatronic characters blink even after being unplugged, and sometimes they'll even appear in entirely different places than they were the night before. Who knows what those creepy little dolls get up to overnight? I do not want to get trapped in there and find out. You feel me? Filling at number 3 slot is death. This one's not so much a curse, but it does deal with death. Apparently, no one can die at Disney parks, not legally anyways. While lots of people have unfortunately had tragic accidents and health issues at the parks, they're always removed from the premises before being declared dead. So technically, they didn't die in the parks. Kind of like in Roller Coaster Tycoon when you have your roller coaster hanging over the edge of the neighboring park, so all the guests are just thrown off the ride and die in the other park. This really makes me wonder how many people have actually died at Disney and how many spirits are just wandering the streets and enjoying the rides for the rest of eternity. Now at number 2 is the Seance book. The book in question is located in the Haunted Mansion. Why am I not surprised that the Haunted Mansion has the most curses and rumors surrounding it? Legend has it though that this Seance book used to belong to actual witches way back in the 1300s. Staff members reported having a lot of issues with the book, including the table it was on being flipped over or the book going missing entirely. They eventually had to replace the book with, I don't know, I guess a prop seance book that isn't cursed with centuries of witchcraft. And as far as I know, the slot fixed all the problems they were having. So, I mean, Bob's your uncle. And finally, at number 1, we have the ghost of Walt Disney. Now, prior to him passing away, whenever he visited the parks, the light in the second-story window of the Main Street Fire Hall would be lit up to tell staff members to be on their best behavior. A boss is here. But after he died, the light naturally was off all the time until one day it mysteriously lit up again. The worker who was in the room switched it back off, only for it to be turned on again when she turned her back towards it. And now the staff leave the light on all the time to remind their employees and guests that Walt is still at the park and he's watching. I'm sure for the guests this seems like a sweet gesture, but to the staff it's probably a bit daunting and haunting. But I'm not a rapper. And that is it for today's video, guys. Disney. I've yet to go to the one in Florida. What am I doing with my life? Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Let me know if you've seen Mr. One Way. Let me know your experiences of Disney. As always, I'm your host, Eamon Hassan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye. Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking to him on the phone.
Next. Okay, what else? Like maybe this one.
Solitary confinement is one of the worst things a person can go through, and it's estimated that close to 100,000 people are currently in solitary confinement in America, with these people spending 23 hours of their day every single day in prison cells about the size of an elevator for sometimes decades on end. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving you the rundown on the top 10 prisoners who have been left in solitary confinement. Hey everyone, my name is Mackenzie Smith, and I'm going to be a guest host for the next few videos on Most Amazing. I'm usually hosting on Inform Overload, so if you want to see more of me or like entertainment news, check us out over there. But in this video, I'm going to be telling you stories of people who were in solitary confinement, their experiences, and how they got out of it, if they were able to. So without further ado, let's get into that list. Starting off at number 10, we have Sam Mendez. Sam Mendez was part of a landmark case decision for minors in solitary confinement that even brought the judge in the case to tears. Mendez was in prison after being convicted of killing a woman at the age of 14, even though no evidence tied him to the crime. At the time he was released, he was in prison for more than 23 years, most of it spent in solitary. He was put in solitary for incredibly small offenses, like making an unpermitted phone call and using a bathroom key when he wasn't supposed to. And literally, I do worse things on the daily. But in 2019, his sentence was reconsidered after a 2016 Supreme Court ruling declared life without parole for minors unconstitutional, which gave him the chance for his case to be reconsidered. After he was released, his mother was incredibly relieved, telling news outlets that the last time she had seen him was in 2004. And unfortunately, he left solitary battling a host of mental illnesses. In at number 9, Albert Woodfox. Albert Woodfox was held in solitary for 44 years in a Louisiana prison before being released in 2016, when he was 69 years old. And after being released, he decided to speak out about the torture he had endured while living in isolation, in a book he wrote called Solidarity, My Story of Transformation and Hope. In the book and many interviews he did after, he spoke of how the hardest day was when he learned he wouldn't be able to attend his mother's funeral. In the book, he speaks of the severe bouts of claustrophobia he would endure, saying, quote, "The pain was so intense, it was so deep, I had never felt that kind of pain before. This was different from physical pain. My very soul ached," he said in an interview with...
Oh, shit.
that the prison was completely indifferent to the terrible conditions he faced. And with all the evidence they had against the prison, Slevin was awarded $22 million by a jury. But after some appeals, it was settled at $15.5 million.
No, but you can get into uni. Everyone can. It doesn't matter if you haven't studied before. You can enroll with no entry requirement.
In at number 6, Adam Capay. Adam Capay is a First Nations man that was sent to solitary confinement in 2012 after he was charged with killing another inmate. But there were many cries for his release after he was subjected to 4 years in isolation, as well as 24/7 artificial light, with the minister in charge of Ontario prisons stating that back in 2016 he would not release him from solitary as that was the decision for the courts, not a politician. While awaiting trial, Capay served approximately 4.5 years in solitary confinement, and during his isolation, his lawyers argued these conditions constituted cruel and unusual punishment. The courts ended up agreeing, with the judge ruling that the violation of Capay's rights under the Canadian Charters of Rights and Freedoms outweighed the government charges. Capay was then released in January 29th, 2019. Halfway through at number 5, Cesar Villa. Cesar Villa spoke about his awful time on solitary in an essay he wrote back in 2013, while he was in his 12th year of isolation at the Pelican Bay Security Housing Unit, or SHU. Villa was originally placed in solitary indefinitely after being validated as a gang member. In an essay, he wrote how being in the SHU was a cold and empty world, where the emptiness would seep into your bones, saying in the first few weeks he tried to tell himself that he could get through it. But then as the weeks went on, things got worse. He was forced to sit outside in the cold during his time in solitary, and he would stand in his underwear in the yard while he was shivering from the rain and snow coming down on him, saying that at the end of his first year, his feet and hands began to split open from the cold, and that he bled all over his clothes, food, and even in his sheets. Even saying that the facility was so strict, Band-Aids weren't even allowed, saying that he didn't realize it then, but in hindsight, his psyche was unraveling. And oh my god, after hearing that honestly might be the worst one. Oh, that is just crazy. Then in at number 4, Sarah Jo Pender. Even though most people that end up in solitary are men, women are not immune from this treatment. Some are even sent to solitary as retaliation for them exposing abuse inside the prison from staff. Sarah Jo Pender was sent to prison after being convicted of murder along with her boyfriend, but later was sent to solitary confinement after she escaped from prison in 2008, leading to her being featured on America's Most Wanted. After many years in solitary, she decided to write about her time while there, with her writing about how women would come in sane, but would leave completely shut down inside or hurting themselves out of frustration, saying how she witnessed her prison mates making countless attempts on their own lives with items they found around the prison. A book on her escape called Girl Wanted, The Chase for Sarah Pender was released back in 2011, but it was criticized for being pretty inaccurate. In at number 3, Ashley Smith, who unfortunately ended up passing away after she strangled herself in 2007, and a jury ended up deciding the fact that it was not a suicide, but rather a homicide, because of how neglected Smith was. And even more horribly, the prison guards witnessed the horrific event, with some even videotaping it, if you can believe it, because they were ordered to not go inside of her cell if she's still breathing, even though they could pretty clearly see what was going to happen if they didn't intervene. 2 years later, one of newly elected Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's first acts was to ask Cabinet to implement recommendations arising from the inquest into her treatment, with Smith's mother, Coralie, writing in the Globe and Mail in 2014 that her daughter's death would not be the last time solitary confinement would put Canadian inmates in harm's way, and that more needed to be done to stop all this. In at number 2, Reddit AMA. To spice up the list a bit, I wanted to include a Reddit AMA, where an anonymous user wrote that they were in solitary for 15 years, and said they would answer questions, with the user revealing that they were in prison because they tried to kill their stepfather, but they were put in solitary because of a gang affiliation, saying that after being released, they were able to lead somewhat of a normal life, with them now being employed as a taxi driver, but that they still struggle with PTSD from the experience, and have a tendency to push others away to this day. Then if you were wondering what can be done while you're in solitary, they spoke of how they tried to keep their mind active by reading, writing, and listening to the radio. But since they were restricted for the most part while inside, meaning they were only able to read law books and a Bible, then ending off saying that the silence of lockdown is mind-numbing and suffocating, and with the only noises being heard is screaming, crying, or banging on cell doors. It drove them mentally insane. Then at number 1, Keith Lamar. Keith Lamar was locked up after he killed someone as a teenager in a dispute over drugs. A few years after, he was placed in solitary and then sentenced to death after he was convicted of killing 5 other inmates during the Lucasville uprising. He then spent 27 years in solitary confinement in a supermax prison in Ohio, isolated for 23 hours a day in a bathroom-sized room. And in all those years, he was not let outside whatsoever, and his only connection to the outside was a crack in the wall. But he is trying to change the rules in prison, as after a hunger strike in 2011 by him and some other inmates, him and others in the Ohio prison won the right to hug their family members during visits, instead of just seeing them through plexiglass, as well as being able to make phone calls. In light of the current pandemic, Lamar has been asked advice from his friends and family on how to cope with quarantine, with him telling Mother Jones that he's lucky to have a full bookshelf and a desk. But he also takes time to look inside himself by painting and doing yoga and meditations. Okay, everyone, well, that is all for that list, but one really interesting takeaway from that last story was the...
Let's put on a show. Keep up, Dallas.
You make this too easy.
What's up, Top 10 fan? Hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host, Ayman Hassan, and welcome back to another video. So according to YouTube views, we all really like listening to horrific things that have happened to people in isolated cabins in shady-ass places. And I feel like it's one of those things that scare us from afar, but at an okay level since it's not happening to us personally. Just me. I mean, clearly not. Either way, let's just get into it. These are the top 10 scary abandoned cabins, part 2. Starting us off with number 10 is The Note. This one actually scared me to my very core because of how creepy it is. I may be exaggerating, but it was scary. Shared by Redditor Killer Orange Cat, he said he's a very high-up executive in a big business, so he's pretty much stressed all the time. In the few weeks he has off every year, he likes going out to cabins and just being isolated, catch up on some reading, you know how it goes. However, he stopped doing that a few years back after a harrowing experience. He rented a secluded cabin which was a 1.5-hour drive from the nearest town. There was no signal up there, no radio, just you and your regrets, really. Either way, one night he was on the porch reading a book when he heard a noise. He looked up to see a person in the trees nearby, and having expected hikers in the area, he wasn't that bothered. The man waved to the user, and the user waved back, and then the man just walked off. A few hours later, the user heard rustling and looked up to see the man from before in the same place as before, just staring at him. This time he didn't wave or anything, he just creepily stared for a bit too long and then left again. Weirded out, the user went inside the cabin and locked the front door, and by 10 p.m. that night, he started hearing noises in the driveway. The user got a flashlight and went out to see some movements in the bushes and sort of ran back inside the cabin and locked the door. He went to bed and during the night got up to pee and then went back to bed. When he finally woke up, he went into the living room and realized, number 1, the front door was unlocked and open, and number 2, there was a note taped to the front door. It said, "You might want to keep a light on, you walked right past me for your piss break." He packed up his things 30 minutes later and was out like a light. And hence the user never again went on these stress relieving getaways, because let's face it, nothing about that story was stress relieving. I am stress induced. Coming in at number 9 is Blue Mountain. Back in 2013, 14-year-old Dylan Dakota Eastley was staying in a hunting cabin in Granite, Washington with his foster dad Michael Piet, his uncle Kenneth, and a few other men. On the night of October 2nd, police were called to the cabin and found the bodies of both older men full of gunshot wounds. Dylan was accused of the murders, but according to his testimony, both men stepped out to pee, and Dylan saw what he thought were wolf eyes in the darkness and then got a gun and started firing. Which, hello, is such a bad cover-up. Like, at least think of something more convincing than that. The shots that killed his uncle weren't even fired towards the woods, they were fired back into the cabin. The third man ran to the truck mid-shooting and decided to get help. Now, Dylan at this point escaped from the cabin but accidentally shot himself in the leg, and so another man from the hunting party found him and duct taped him to a chair. The boy ended up confessing, and his uncle's wife went on to say say had Dylan got his way, he would have probably shot everyone in the cabin. He has no remorse. Dylan, who had a history of mental problems and had been abused as a kid, apparently reached his breaking point at the cabin despite the foster family taking very good care of him. Honestly, I don't know what could have gotten into a 14-year-old boy's head to possess him to murder 2 people. And then he shot himself in the leg by accident. You're so young and so dumb. I feel bad for the kid because he ruined his life, but I also know I shouldn't, and I don't, but I do. And no, he's a killer. Cold-hearted killer.
Play the new Loaded with 20s and 50s ticket from Instant Scratchers today.
At number 8, we have The Ghost Cabin. So this story was shared by an anonymous person who said this happened to her when she was around 11 years old. Now, back then, she lived with her grandparents in a house surrounded by a lot of woods. She used to take walks into the woods all the time since she visited her grandparents every summer and was quite used to the area. Now, one day while she was on her usual path, she walked a bit further than usual, so by that, let's not just pointlessly kill, let's at least kill for money, people. Hello? Not that I'm encouraging that, I'm just saying. At number 4 is The Porch Man. So this one was shared.
I guess it's class time. School finally start. Nice. Okay, so the first class is so the first class, it's saying it's down here. And turn this way. The first class, it's not here, so it must be here. Class dismissed. Okay, cool. What class do I have now? Okay, so the class is here. Okay, kids, class dismissed. Okay, so one more class, and then it should be break time. Nice. Okay, so the last class until break is down here. Okay, class dismissed. Have a nice break. Cool. Guess let's head to break. Now the cafeteria is this it? No. Where's the cafeteria? I forgot it's a big school, for fuck's sake. Here we are. What do you want? Yeah, just the usual. Okay, cool. Thanks. You're welcome. New kid, come over here. Yeah, what's up? This is Jacob, Adam, and Jade. My name is Connor. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, new kid. My name is Jaden, by the way. All good. Here. Don't know, hang out, a break. Cool, why not? Cool. Cool. Follow me, guys. We hang out normally down here. Oh yeah? Do you smoke weed? Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Here's 4 joints and a smoke. Thanks. Thanks. You're welcome.
In at number 6, Adam Capay. Adam Capay is a First Nations man that was sent to solitary confinement in 2012 after he was charged with killing another inmate. But there were many cries for his release after he was subjected to 4 years in isolation, as well as 24/7 artificial light. With the minister in charge of Ontario Prison stating that back in 2016 he would not release him from solitary as that was the decision for the courts, not a political team. Halfway through at number 5, Cesar Villa. Cesar Villa spoke about his awful time while in solitary. He was on witnessed the horrific event in his life, with him now being so up as after a hunger strike in solitary. I'm pretty introverted, so I think I handled lockdown better than a lot of my really extroverted friends, but it was still incredibly hard for me, and I couldn't even.
So this one was shared by an anonymous Redditor who said growing up he used to go to this cabin with his family quite a bit, but by the time he turned 12 they stopped going. When the user turned 25, he learned that when his aunt died she had left the cabin for him, and so after inheriting it he sort of wanted to know what condition it was in. He went out there and on the way up the dirt road he saw the cabin. He hadn't turned into the driveway yet, but he was close enough to see someone was sitting on the porch swing. Confused, he backed up and assumed he had gotten the wrong cabin, but after double checking the address, he was like, no, that was definitely it. He went back and saw the man was still there, and instead of getting out to talk to him, he went back into town and asked the police to check it out before him. Which, I mean, is overcautious in my opinion, but I guess that worked out since God knows what would have happened to him had he got himself. And you'll find out why in a few minutes. Cliffhanger. The police go and check it out, and the user waits in a cafe in town. They take longer than expected to come back, and when they do, they show him a picture inside a folder asking if that's the guy he saw. The user said yes, and the cops tell him that when the man saw them approach, he ran into the cabin and resisted, so he had to be handcuffed. Turns out the porch swinger was wanted in California for murdering his girlfriend, and so he had been hiding in the cabin for months. When the police got there, he thought they had finally found him, not knowing they had no idea who the hell he was. And honestly, if that was what he did with the police, he really probably would have killed the guy had he driven up there himself. I mean, he already killed his girlfriend. What's this random guy? Just another number on the list. Filling our number 3 slot is The Cellar. This one was shared by another anonymous Redditor who said during his second year of college, he rented a cabin with his best friend, Jack. The cabin was beautiful, it was isolated, it was near a lake, it was just perfect. Either way, the second morning they woke up, the user realized one of his sandwiches was missing. He assumed Jack ate it and asked him, and he insisted he hadn't. The user thought, okay, he either forgot or he doesn't want to tell me, it's whatever. That night, he heard Jack moving around in the living room despite him having an A1 bladder and being a deep sleeper. He called out but no one answered, and the next morning another one of his sandwiches was gone. At this point he confronted Jack again, who claimed he hadn't eaten the sandwiches and he hadn't been up at night night either. The user thought Jack was just messing with him, but that night he found it hard to sleep anyway. He saw that his bedroom door was a bit open and that someone was behind it. He ran to it and then to Jack's room to find him asleep in bed. At this point he was like, what the hell? And he even went outside and checked all around the cabin but found nothing. The next morning, Jack again said, no, I was in bed all night, I didn't eat your sandwich, mate, and I wasn't up. That night, again, the user heard noises and ran out again to find something or someone run across the room, and then he heard a massive slam. He flipped the light on as soon as possible and realized the noise came from a cellar door that he had never noticed. You've been there for 3 days, you didn't notice the cellar door? Alright, so realizing that, everything sort of fell.
What's the time? Okay, so it's 3 PM. Yup. All of us head into my house to the sleepover. Don't come, new kid? I guess so. Cool. Where's your house? Straight down here. Okay, cool. Sitting here. Okay, backwards. Let's cut through here. So why not? Here we are at my house. This is your house? Yep. Holy crap. I know. It's pretty big. Should see my house. My house is in the pool area in Japan City. Oh yeah? Cool. But your house is like bloody big. Speaker, lounge room, nice, and fireplace, kitchen even, then Firework, I mean. Okay, nice. Balcony out here. What else? Okay, bedroom. There's only one bedroom. House where? Oh, this is the wrong house. This is my other house. My second house. How many houses you got? Heaps, trust me. I think it's this way, so yeah. Let's go. Okay, cool. Nice place. I know. This is in Tokyo City. Nice. Tokyo City is much more cheaper to buy a house. Even a mansion is much more cheaper. You should buy a mansion here, buy a house. I guess so. Can I play some music? Go ahead. Cool.
Wake up to a cloudy day, dark rolls in and it starts to rain. Staring out to the cage like walls, time goes by and the shadows crawl. Crushing candy, crushing pills, got no job, mom pays my bills. Texting exes, get my fill, sweating bullets now. They're singing the blues, 20 more dead on the evening news. Think to myself, really what's the use? I'm just like you, I was born to lose. Why, oh why can't you just fix me? When all I want's to feel numb, but the medication's all gone. Why does God hate me? When all I want's to get high and forget this so-called life. I am so freaking bored, nothing to do today. I guess I'll sit around and medicate. I am so freaking bored, nothing to do today. I guess I'll sit around and medicate. Can't wait to feel better than I ever will. Tack that shit like a kid on Benadryl. Chase it down with a hopeful smile. Hate myself, I can go for miles. They say family's all you need. Someone to trust can help you breathe. Inhale that drug, but you start to choke. You fall on the outs of an inside joke. Why, oh why can't you just fix me? When all I want's to feel numb, but the medication's all gone. Why, oh why does God hate me? Cause I've seen enough of it, heard enough of it, felt enough of it, had enough of it. I am so freaking bored, nothing to do today. I guess I'll sit around and medicate. I am so freaking bored, nothing to do today. I guess I'll sit around and medicate. Superman is a hero, but only when his mind is clear though. He needs that fix like the rest of us, so he's got no fear when he saves that bus. All the stars in the Hollywood Hills, Snapchat Live when they pop them pills. All those flavors of the rainbow, too bad that shit don't work though. Your friends are high right now, your parents are high right now. That hot chick's high right now, that cap is high right now. The president's high right now, your priest is high right now. Everyone's high as fuck right now and no one's ever coming down.
Next. Next. Fuck off ads. Okay. Catch by your shit.
Westside, lad. Doing that, TKO. Doing that, Kid Curvey. Pistol motherfucking P. It's your boy Enzo. Fuck it, love.
All you do is talk shit. What we gon' do, lad? Talk about making moves. But what if you move, lad? Is that your boys in the back? Is that your crew, lad? Cause all you do is talk shit. But what you gon' do, lad? 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 Is that your boys in the back? Is that your crew, lad? Yeah. Cause all you do is talk shit. But what you gon' do, lad?
This that gutter rap. Give a fuck where your brothers at. Give a fuck where your cousins at. We gon' bust back where your mother at. Don't know they gon' learn G. The B2Ks you got served G. Pistol P, Enzo, TKO, and Kid Curvey. We coming and running amok. You shoulda, woulda, coulda, but now you fucked. You running and running, you ran out the block. Running to us, your shit will get. Southwest with the West Side, all the way to them Louis boys. Curvey with that heavy shit, called TKO for the Louis noise. Ha! We got the juice, we got the juice. I'm rolling with deuce, rolling with deuce. I'm rolling with deuce. Came for the food, always to get for my shoes. Bitches, you don't have a clue. Back in the stool, with my Uso making moves, bitch.
All you do is talk shit. But what you gon' do, lad? Talk about making moves. But what if you move, lad? Is that your boys in the back? Is that your crew, lad? Cause all you do is talk shit. But what you gon' do, lad? 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 Is that your boys in the back? Is that your crew, lad? Cause all you do is talk shit.
Yeah.
But what you gon' do,
Everything
lad?
we all drop get big views. On the shit you drop like they snooze. Yeah, I know they know the name. I'ma own the game. I'ma wake up cause we ain't flow the same. TKO, Enzo, Pistol P. Know it's gonna be a banger, us on the beat. I ain't stopping till I got it unlocked, and that's a fact. Running up on motherfuckers, we ain't beefing on track. Far from it anyway, just wanna smoke and relax. Red hot, LA, go wait in my dash. Shout out satellites that be making cash. Going up quick, can't turn back. Just doing what we gotta let love get died. I ain't wanna end up in a celery yard. I'ma ride these tracks and make Johnny Ma. Heat all our music in the garden, bruh. What you gonna do, lad?